Peace be upon you, friends. With you is your friend Darum. I ask you to support the channel by subscribing, liking, and posting motivating comments and an enjoyable viewing experience for you. Amar returned to the living room and then came back with a solid quilt and gave it to me and said, "You will sleep in the library on the floor." I said to him, "Don't you have a pillow?" He said, "You don't need it." Then he went out and closed the door. The first week with Amar. The first days in Amar's house were the most difficult. I was like a prisoner who wanted to get out of his prison and end his suffering, and I was in an unstable psychological state. I was very nervous, especially after missing my flight that would have taken me to my country. I was reading quickly and hastily through the books in order to reach my unknown goal as quickly as possible, and I ignored Amar's advice to be careful and reflect on the written words and not to pass over them unnoticed. I did not listen to his words and continued reading in my own way, but to no avail. I did not understand what I was reading, and I did not know what to look for. I was in a vortex, not to mention some, of the disgusting words written in those books glorifying demons. These books were like the disgusting mush that I ate with Amar on the first day, which later became clear to me that it was his daily food and that he did not eat anything else, and I had no choice but to eat it with him. A new life system was imposed on me, different from my own. Amar used to lock me in the library from sunset until sunrise, leaving nothing with me except a lamp and a little oil, enough for 2 hours of reading, and I did not know the reason for him doing that. I said to myself at the time, perhaps he does not want to bear the expensive expenses of oil. I confronted Amar on about the 4th day and asked him why he closed the library door on me in the evening, and he said, "Why do you want to go out?" I told him, "I don't want to leave, but I don't want to feel like a prisoner there." He said, "You are already a prisoner in it, and when you realize that, you will be relieved." I screamed at him and said, "Death is easier than what I am in." He said, "Death awaits you outside, and I did not prevent you from hugging it. I remained silent, lowered my gaze to the ground, and returned to the library to continue reading." The first month with Amar. This period may have been the most difficult period I spent with Amar. I was very upset and began to get tired of reading, food, and everything. During this period, I fell ill twice, and Amar gave me a strange drink to drink during my illness. Although my illness was different both times, he gave me the same drink to drink. I didn't mind the bitter taste because it was a nice change from that disgusting mush. During that month, I began to learn more about Amar's daily routine and began to notice the strangeness of the lifestyle he was living. He rarely left the house and wrote more than he read. He would sometimes mutter to himself some words that I did not understand, let alone talk to himself sometimes. However, Amar was not keen to hide his strange lifestyle from me. He treated me as if I did not exist or was accustomed to these things. Indeed, with time, I began to get used to what I saw. The house I was in consisted of a living room and a very small bedroom where Amar used to stay in the evening, in addition to the library, which occupied the largest area of the house. I didn't discover that there was no bathroom until after the first day when I needed it, and Amar told me, "I'm relieving myself outside." I said to him, "What should I do? I cannot get out of here." Amar laughed hard, and I said to him, "Is this time to laugh?" He said, "Sorry, but your situation now is funny." I said to him, "Give me the solution and laugh as you want." So Amar went out and came back with a metal bucket and said, "This will be your bathroom for the duration of your time here." I did not argue with him. I went into the library and relieved myself. Then I came back and said to him, "I need water to wash." He said, "Water is scarce here, and the well from which I get water is not nearby." I said to him, "Please, I cannot stay without washing." He sympathized with me the first time and brought me water. That period was difficult and arduous. It took away from me many means of life that I took for granted. I used to shower once a month, and little by little, I convinced Amar to provide me with bathing water once a week. But when the harsh winter came and the water was almost frozen, I did not shower for more than 2 months. I only drank water, and Amar was drinking a hot drink from time to time, and I used to ask him, "Is this tea or coffee?" He was like, "Do you want some?" And I used to say, "I want to know its content first." He would respond while taking another sip, "Believe me, you do not want to know." During this period, we were in winter and on the verge of spring, and I was enjoying the picturesque nature, which I peeked at from time to time through the living room window, as the other rooms did not have windows. I asked Amar one day if I could open the window to breathe air and said, "It's okay. The devil outside will not be able to enter the house through it, but be careful not to stick your head out," he said while laughing. I opened the window and inhaled with all my might the scent of freedom that I missed. The smell of fresh spring flowers was pleasant, and the mountain breeze was cool and fresh. I felt happy for the first time since I entered this house. But while inhaling this pleasant aroma, I was struck by a very unpleasant smell, similar to rotten eggs mixed with the smell of smoke. So I held my breath and closed the window. Amar asked me and said, "What is with you?" I said, "I smelled a very bad smell like a burning carcass." "Did you burn something outside?" Amar laughed and said, "The smell you described is the smell of your devil." He seemed to come very close to the window, hoping she would come out. I was silent as I looked out through the window and said to myself, "I will find you among those books." The First Year with Amar. I continued reading, and my tantrums continued to increase, but Amar was strangely patient and sweetened them. He believed in me more than I believed in myself, and I didn't know why. But as the days passed, I began to gradually get used to Amar's diet and lifestyle. The times we used to talk decreased because I no longer asked as I used to. The books became familiar, and some of them began to connect with others in my mind. I did not seek help from Amar except in difficult matters. I used to stop reading at the time of the only meal that day, which was the harissa that Amar insisted on eating daily, despite my repeated attempts to persuade him to change, even for a short period. But he vehemently refused. After several months of researching the books, Amar started talking to me and joking with me, and a good relationship developed between us, which prompted him to help me research from time to time. I learned many things from him that were not written in the books. He was a good man, even though he was a malicious magician. I remember once saying to him, "Don't you realize, Amar, that the magician is an infidel?" He laughed and said, "What about the one who comes to him?" I remained silent and did not discuss the matter with him again. One day I asked him to bring me shaving tools because the hair on my head, chin, and body was starting to bother me. He refused and said that a lot of hair on a magician is a source of strength for him. I said to him, "I am not a magician, Amar, and I do not want to be a magician." He said, "It is no longer an option. You are one of us, and it will remain that way." I told him, "I am forced here, and as soon as I finish this devil of mine, I will abandon this damned world." He said to me while laughing, "This world has one door, and it is for entry only." I did not like what he said, and I boycotted him for a whole week. Then he came to reconcile with me and said, "Lee, I sent a messenger to your mother's dream to reassure her about you." I said to him eagerly, "How?" He put a book in my hand and said, "Read and learn." I refused and told him, "I will not read any of your books without need, and my mother is a believer and will be patient after me until I return. During the first year of my stay with him, I prayed and Ammar did not refuse, but he would leave the place when I did that. But unfortunately, in the last 2 years, I neglected prayer because of what I was reading in those damned books. During the first year, Ramadan came, and it was the first time that I started to notice some changes in my daily routine. A few days before the blessed month, Ammar brought a large amount of rice and some supplies and said, "We will change the type of food in Ramadan for you." I was happy at first, but I was not sure of the truth of his words when he said that the change was for me. What made me more certain were the other changes that occurred, such as storing a large amount of water inside the house in barrels, as if he was preparing for an airstrike that would descend on him from the sky. When Ammar finished his preparations, I sat next to him, sweat dripping from his forehead after carrying those heavy barrels, and I said to him, "What's going on?" "And don't tell me you're doing this for me, Ammar. We cannot go out during Ramadan." I told him, "I am locked up here all year anyway, so what is the difference?" "Ammar, the difference is that I will be locked up with you, and we will not get food or water." I said to him, "Tell me why." Ammar got up and did not answer my question. Ramadan was a difficult month for Ammar, and I felt that his strength was weakening or disappearing. I did not notice until the second year that he was preparing enough food for the entire month of Ramadan so that he would not go out. In the third year, I understood that his strength was weakening due to the binding of his demons during the holy month. So I asked him once, "Why don't I go out during Ramadan, as the devils are tied up in the sky, including that devil who is waiting for me?" Then he said to me, "Go and try, for I will not prevent you." My faith was not strong during that period, so I did not try. But I know today that God's word is true, and that Satan was associating with them throughout the blessed month of Ramadan. If I had gone out, I would not have been harmed, but my presence with Ammar and his books made me lose my faith and made me captivated by them. Ammar used to lock the door for me at sunset and only open it at sunrise, but during the month of Ramadan, he did not do that. Rather, he always asked me to leave the library and sit with him to talk during the night. From those lengthy conversations every night, I learned a lot from him that I did not find in those books. In fact, he answered many questions for me that I could not find an explanation for while reading. Ammar was different during Ramadan. He was tired and seemed sick or drunk. I didn't ask him much about his condition because I knew he wouldn't answer. One night, Ammar took out a pack of cigarettes and started smoking. This was the first time I saw him smoking. He extended a cigarette to me and said, "Take one." So I said to him, "I don't smoke." "Then, didn't you choose another holy month to start smoking?"